Uh, Welcome to my talk about my unsuccessful attempts to keep away my children from their mobile phones. We're going to go through plenty of background. There's going to be a bit of psychology. We're going to cover Google Family Link for those of you who are unfamiliar with it. There's going to be some demos. So all the or most of the issues with Google Family Link that you're going to see today, they were found by my children. So you'll enjoy what they figure out while being homeschooled during the pandemic. Then we're going to go into the details of why this actually happened and how this happened. I'm going to talk about how to work around the problem from the parent perspective and from developer perspective as well. And we're going to close with takeaways. Mobile devices, they're really great. Children in Poland, I bet in Norway the same, they use mobile phones daily. They're not really required at Polish school, but some teachers encourage usage of them. They can be used to chat with parents. We can call them. We can know where they are. They can contact with their friends. That's really great. And the knowledge, if your kid has access to Wikipedia, they will be reading about all the interesting stuff that happens in the world. But mobile devices are not just about nice stuff. Most importantly, we never taught ourselves as a civilization to approach mobile devices with mental health in mind. So even though we are expecting our children to use mobile devices in a sane way, they don't have anybody to learn it from, because we are using mobile devices too much as well, we parents. Moreover, there is an expectation, at least in my children's schools, that kids will be maybe not online 24 hours a day, but they will be checking their school email, even sometimes on the weekends, which is at least controversial. And the children will spend a lot of time with their mobile phones. Some of you, if you're parents, some of you will be lucky and you're going to have reasonable kids, but other children will try to use their mobile devices as much as they can. And one of the reasons behind that is because they were, at least to some extent, designed for addiction. It is a big word, but there are traces of this being the case here and there in the press. If you're in particular interested in behaviorism or like programming humans, you will find articles about that even in mainstream press. We're going to go into that in a moment. What you see on the screen is called a Skinner box, which is used to train animals. It can be used for rats, but also for pigeons. So there's this response lever. You press it, and the idea is that the food's going to be dispensed. So when the food comes out every time, the rat's gonna it's going to keep pressing at the beginning, but then just when it's going to be hungry. Now, there is a concept in behaviorism called randomized award, or this is the type of like generating a response when you do not dispose the award or food all the time, but you dispose it at random, and this induces very special behavior in rats, but in humans as well. So they're going to keep pressing the lever no matter what, because they never know when the food's going to come out. And the problem is that with mobile phone notifications, we are being told the same. So when we hear a ping, it could be an advertisement, but it could be our friend or kid calling us. So we're going to keep checking it. And I'm doing it, like all the time, like most of us probably. I mentioned design for addiction, and this is a big word, but there's some actually science behind it. And the most prominent scientist that works on that these days is called B.J. Fogg. He is a director of Stanford lab, where they work with the students trying to design devices, software, in a way that it compels people to do something for good or for bad. One of his students created an application called Send the Sunshine to share warm feelings with your friends. And a couple of years later, he went and co-founded Instagram. So this is actually something that can be monetized. But this is not the beginning of behaviorism. The Skinner box that I mentioned has been developed by Mr. Skinner. It must have been in 50s, 60s, something like that. But even before, we were working on trying to compel animals or humans into doing something. Notable person, Mr. Thorndike, was working on that in 19th century by trying to train cats to get out of a maze. I wouldn't try to do anything like that with my cat, but yeah, there were some people doing it. And finally, Mr. Pavlov and Pavlov's dog, something that we know from school. So we've been trying to do this for years, and we are quite successful. I've learned all of that and more by reading an article in The Economist 7 years ago. It summarized behaviorism. This is the link to the article, if you're interested. It describes a visit of a reporter in Palo Alto, California, where he attended a workshop on behavior design by Mr. Fogg. Modern mobile devices, computers, software, and other things are built based on behaviorism for good or for bad. I'm personally using language learning application that reminds me all the time that I should just pick up the phone and use it. So it could be used for good, but also it could be used for like nefarious purposes, let's call them. Some examples of cases when this went really too far happened in Europe, and legislators picked up the problem, and they prohibited usage of variable award approach in case of loot boxes that you may be aware of. They use in games. You have to pay money, and you're going to get some in-game items. They could be worthless or worth something for you, but this is like a gambling. And 2 European countries, so Belgium and Netherlands, tried to prohibit this approach based on behaviorism. It succeeded in Belgium. In the Netherlands, it has been the High Court agreed with a vendor of a game, and just the law allows this now. Finally, the big tech companies, gaming companies, they are doing this because it brings the revenue. As soon as you're going to compel somebody to stick to their phone, they will monetize this behavior by just showing you advertisements. And unfortunately, I've seen this happening in real life when my kid was watching YouTube for hours. And then I went and checked how much is it worth for Google or YouTube. And it's like maybe 1 cent per ad impression or 7 cents for ad impression, depending on the demographics and so on. And they knew, they could mine information about it, that he's a really young person, that he's using phone late at night, but they're not blocking it for good reasons, which is money. Again, link to the article. I highly recommend reading it. It's spectacular. Finishing up on the background, what probably compelled my children to look into it was that they spent 2 years at home with me, and I'm a tech person, and even worse than that, I'm information security guy. So our home network goes through a DNS filtering solution, which blocks some things, but quickly they learned that it's enough to turn off Wi-Fi to go around it. I installed parental controls on both of their devices. And they friends with less tech-savvy parents, they don't fall into the same problems. They can use their devices without any restrictions. But the pandemic was also fun for my children. My son especially, he liked it because he didn't have to wake up and go to school. And children were, maybe Polish children or children in general, were really inventive. For example, some web pages with the tests, they had answers to the tests embedded in the HTML, so it was enough to bring up a web console to find all the answers. Or some other crafty kids were installing internet throttling applications on their computers just to pretend that their video and audio doesn't work. And I know about one successful young person that even got a new PC from school because they thought his is broken. Finally, who figured out how to go around it. So that's my son. This photo has been taken a good couple of years ago now. He's 15, big guy. But yeah, boredom associated with me just being in the next room led him to trying to find it, and I was overconfident and over-reliant on the technology, as it turns out. So I did notice some strange usage patterns in Google Family Link, panel. But he was always telling me, oh, this is just some glitch, and I was like, okay, this is technology, Google, $1 trillion company, what could possibly go wrong, right? So fine, and he was really good at convincing me, or I wanted to trust him. But then, towards the end of primary school, which you are 13 or 14 years old at in Poland, he finally convinced me, oh, none of my friends have these parental controls, I want to get rid of it. And I told him, okay, after you pass final exam, I'm removing it. And a couple of days later, he started telling me things, and that I was just amazed. Before we're going to go into the demos, just a couple of words about Google Family Link. So it's going to help you, your family, create healthy digital habits. That's a marketing sentence from the website. There's a parent and child client that you install. It has you can set a daily screen time limit. You can set as sleep time when kids weren't going to be able to use the phone, mostly. You can set the limits for specific applications. Restrict your content, like your kid supposedly won't be able to access adult content. And it's using Kite as a logo. Everybody loves kites, right? I do love them. There's one thing peculiar about this. there's one application installed on every Google phone that you cannot block. And this is a Google built-in app. This is this search thingy that you can see on the home screen with a microphone and a camera next to it. That's going to become important later on. It's not a... it has just everything that you would expect. So there are my kids here, unfortunately, but also some test accounts, so you can set the app limits, you can see how the device is used, what applications are installed, and so on. Just what you would expect from the parental controls app. And now the first thing that he showed me, I need to switch to. It's going to be actually running on actual device. I do have demos pre-recorded, but hopefully we're not gonna need them. So at this point in time, the device has been already used for 10 minutes, and let me share that. And yeah, time's up. You can't use it. There are certain apps on the phone that are set to be always allowed, like a phone, messages, the communicators. Again, there's a reason for that will become obvious later. But that's about it. You can't use the browser. So when I'm going to click on Chrome, it's going to say no. There's the thing that you see at the bottom is a Google app. It can't be blocked, but when you're gonna try to search for something, it's just gonna say you can't do anything. Okay, fine. So the first thing that my son showed me was that what does work though is this camera button next to the search bar, and it's AI. So when you're going to point at something. Let me try to do it like that. It's going to nicely do the search for you. Okay, fine. He told me that he was using it to browse internet memes for like hours because because he was at like being homeschooled. He was bored, so that's what he was doing. And when he told me that, I was like, oh my God. And what I realized is that maybe it's going to do a text recognition as well. So I took a pen and piece of paper and I started writing things. And there you go. It's just going to recognize my handwriting. And it's going to show this silly Twitter profile that I like. And you can kind of browse it. Yeah, it's not going to be that useful, but you can certainly waste a lot of time doing that. You cannot escape from the Google application. So when you're going to actually try to click on something, let's try it again. When you're going to try to click on a link, it's going to block you. So yeah, thumbs up. But that was the first thing. So then I thought, oh my, this is such a great thing. And here we have our $1 trillion company, so maybe they're going to pay up. So I did send it to Google, to the bug bounty, and they said, yes, nice catch. We're going to get back to you. I got so excited. I was hoping that they're going to pay some money to my son. By the way, I did tell them that it was my son that found it. But then it came back. They came back and say, oh, nothing. Not even a T-shirt or something. So my son got really upset. He was saying things like, oh, now I don't have a bug, and I don't have any money. What's the deal? But I did take him to scuba diving, and that was a lot of fun. Highly recommend that. So they did not. They kind of accepted the bug, but they didn't pay out or said like thank you. But they kind of fixed it. So last summer, I was playing with it again, and I realized that it doesn't work anymore. My son got even more upset because he lost the bug, they fixed it, and they didn't pay. But did they actually fix it entirely? We're going to see that in a moment. And lastly, would you ask a hacker to do the patching of your system for you? And we're going to see why that's important. For this, I'm going to change the phones. This is Pixel 4a. Operating system is fully updated, but not the applications. And this can be done by owner of the phone. Like blocking of the updates cannot be prevented by a parent using Google Family Link. This is important. This phone, this is the original Motorola G8 Power that my son had. This one's fully updated. It's Android 11 with the latest patches, and all the applications are patched as well. So let's see what I'm going to show you exactly what I did at that time. Motorola is a bit glitchy when it comes to this screen mirroring, but it should be good enough. So when you're gonna try to look for something, it's just not gonna work. It's gonna say that, oh, we ran out of time. But when you're gonna use microphone, and the Google Lens doesn't work as well. But when you're gonna use the microphone, who invented assembly language?
Kathleen Booth. According to IT World Canada, Kathleen Booth, who died on September 29th, 2022, is all.
So they did block something, but they did not block the voice search. So the query is still done. You can, if you would like to be cheating on the exam, you could still do it. But that's slightly less exciting. But then I was trying to find a point at which they fix it and how did they fix it. So what I did is that I noticed that when each time I'm cleaning the phone, like I was purging it and trying again, and it was working for a couple of hours or a day or two, and then stopped working again. Eventually, I realized that these are the updates for the applications installed on the phone, not the operating system that like fix this behavior. So if your child knows about it, he or she can easily block the updates and you just, so the patch is going to be, it's not going to be applied. So yeah, you can just block it, and those settings you cannot really restrict your kid from using them. It may sound like a bit funny to be so picky about your kid, but this becomes important for the enterprise security as well, because all those family link related settings, they are used in enterprise protection software as well. So supposedly you could be going around those restrictions for gambling sites or buying a gun sites kind of as well. Okay, hold on please. Yeah, so those workarounds that my son showed me, they were like okay, but you couldn't really escape the Google application, and you didn't have like fully fledged browser. You could be just wasting your time, but you couldn't do anything like real. This changed when he showed me another workaround, which is in Skype. So what you do, yeah, thank you. What you need to do is that you just need to start the Skype, and this is how he showed me this. You create new group chat, you call it, for example, 1, so it stays above all the other conversations, so it's like easy shortcut. You create an empty group just for yourself. You type in any URL that you like. And you click on it, and that's it. There are some preconditions. Precondition 1 is that it has to be an application that don't have any limits on it. But in my case, Skype was on the list of like unlimited applications, so he can reach out to me or his friends and so on. And yeah, you just need to know about the thing, and then you get a browser, and you can also, sorry for the Polish language, but the E letter states for explicit content, and you can also change this setting. Now, if you would go to actual Chrome application on the phone, you wouldn't be able to do this, because Skype spins up a special kind of browser that's unrestricted. So even if you block like adult websites, it's going to still allow you to do that. There is a setting in browser in Skype that kind of prevents this from happening. And let me show you this. Web links, it's called this web links open in Skype, but you can change this. Like, and again, there's no way to restrict it. And from here, you can just do anything that you'd like. You can watch YouTube videos for hours. So if you'd like to watch Rick Astley, you are free to do it. But then in actual, you can't start the actual browser on a device, or, sorry, yeah, or like use other applications, but inside the Skype, you're going to be able to do this. So what did I do with this? Again, I got excited. And I sent it to Microsoft. And I thought, okay, another bounty. But I feel like I got almost automated response from them. Again, this was the summer 2022. And yeah, that's how my story with bug bounties ended. But like, why this actually happened? What was going on? So I wanted to, since I'm security researcher, moreover, I'm in mobile application security, I wanted to understand what exactly is going on. In order to be able to figure out what's the bug in Skype that caused that, we need an APK of a production application. I'm not associated with Microsoft. I cannot get the debug symbols. I need to fetch the APK from the Google App Store. So we need an APK, download it. This can be done on Android emulators that come with Android Studio. You just kind of create your own virtual device, and you can sign up for Play Store and download it from there. You need another device, again, virtual one, so it's rooted, so you can actually peek into the very details of what's happening on the phone. You install the Skype on a virtual device, the one that is like enabled to be able to download from a Play Store. you download it onto your machine, and this is how easy it is. You just run 2-3 commands, and now you have production version of current Skype. Then you want to look into what's going on inside. Turns out Skype is written in React Native. This is a cross-platform framework for development of mobile applications. You normally write in your application in JavaScript. When I was trying to look inside, I couldn't find a reference to the web view. So the API that I thought is a culprit of this funny behavior. That's because React Native applications are using those React Native WebView and React Native WebView Bridge APIs, which implement like overhead around WebView. I wanted to also just debug the application, see what's actually going on there. And there's a tool for that that everybody can download and use. It's called Frida. Frida is a dynamic instrumentation software. It can instrument every production binary of any kind of application, more or less, and you can see what's happening inside. You can do debugging, tracing, whatever you'd like. It's quite easy to set up. You download the server part, you move it to the phone, you start it, and then you run some commands from command line. So in my case, the only thing that I did was running free.trace with the name of the application and the name of the API that I was looking for. This load URL method is a name of method inside a WebView class in Android. So I wanted to see if they're actually using it. And yeah, it came up in a trace, so then I could be sure that it's actually the WebView that's causing the problem. But I also wanted to, again, I'm a security researcher. I wanted to peek into the actual binary. And to do that, you just take an application package, you unzip it, and then you look inside. There's plenty of tools that help you with looking inside application packages, like Android application packages. And one of those is called JDAX GUI. It's nice and easy because it has GUI, and it has capability to decompile Android kind of machine code binaries called Dalvik or DAX files. And when I opened the package, it showed me that there are some references to this same method, but they're all in React Native code. So no trace of this being called from a first-party code, so a Skype code, just the React Native. But then I thought, okay, React Native is JavaScript, so maybe it's just there in a JavaScript code that's on the device. And I thought, okay, I'm done with it, and it should be as easy as checking JavaScript files, and then I could brag about that on Twitter or so. But turns out React Native recently turned into more complex way of running of devices. They decided to write their own virtual machine and their own bytecode. So when you actually want to inspect a production application, you won't be able to do this. They're doing it for optimization reasons, but of course for researchers like me, it makes things difficult. This thing is called Hermes. But also there were some smart people that wrote tool to kind of reverse it. But how it looks like is nothing I could comprehend without spending weeks of time looking into it. I did find a reference to this load URL method inside, but why I'm showing you that is that this particular area of reverse engineering is really underdeveloped. Even to be able to generate that from production application, I had to manually change this HBC tool code to ingest the version of this bytecode that Skype had inside. So if you're like concerned citizen like me, it's really tricky to look inside what's actually going on there in Skype. To recap, the problem with Skype is that it's written in React Native, and React Native WebView is using Android SDK WebView class, which is just insecure by default. It's very low level piece of API that should be used with really extra care. Also, it's undocumented behavior, so the fact that it bypasses Google Family Link. But then, again, I'm a security researcher. I need to do some either public speaking or write blog posts about it. And I was curious about how it's working in other applications. So we talked about the Skype, and we know that it has the bug. Funny enough, Teams don't experience the same behavior. Signal's good as well. Telegram's good. But the Messenger, Facebook's Messenger, has or had the same problem. I'm going to explain the past tense in a second. WhatsApp's good. Google Chat is good. WeChat, which is really tricky to get hold of because you have to get your user creation request approved by another person that has WeChat, and this comes with restrictions on like mainland China compared to rest of the world. But unfortunately, a colleague from work knew somebody that could accept me as a WeChat user, so I had a chance to test it out as well. And then my idea was, okay, so the problems in React Native, how about the other cross-platform frameworks? There are some. I did check Xamarin, which has a safe defaults. It's not going to do the nasty trick that I showed you. But unfortunately, in their WebView usage guide, they tell you how to disable security controls around it. So the default's fine, but when you go through the guide, it's going to tell you, oh, and by the way, here's how you use the embedded browser. And this is unfortunately, this has these consequences that I showed you. React Native, we went through this. The library that I mentioned, the WebView one, this is the only one that's there. And the Dart and Flutter use Google Baby for cross-platform frameworks, for cross-platform mobile applications, not only. It also has the same problem. Okay, so by this time, I realized that I cannot rely on the Google Family Link anymore. And this is the mitigation that we came up with. 27 centimeters tall, 17 centimeters wide, thick glass, plastic cup. Really works well, but you have to put your phone inside as well if you want to like your children to obey. When you're a mobile application developer, just not using WebView is the best possible choice. It is problematic though, because if you want to display some web content inside your mobile application, there's no easy way around it. You can be opening actual Chrome browser, so like sending a message to operating system to open the browser for you, but then it's going to kill your UI. And finally, iOS could be a solution. If you're a parent, you could decide, okay, we're done with Android. Now we're going to use iPhones because they're more secure, whatever. But there's an asterisk there for a reason. I'm not going to tell you why it's there. I'm just going to tell you you can't rely on it either. I'm saving it for another talk. but this is an information that you can find on the internet, on Reddit. So if you're really curious and you have some spare time, you can find screen time bypass on Reddit. And there's one post that tells you how to do it. It's not that difficult. Again, it's just about clicking right in right places. And it kills the entire screen time on the iPhone. It's just spectacular. There were more workarounds on iPhone, but most of them were patched. For example, if you uninstall an application and install it again, being a child, the counter got reset. But now, when you're setting up screen time for your kid, the ability for a kid to uninstall applications is blocked by default. This has changed some time ago. And there were tricks like that, but all of them were patched, apart from one that you can find on Reddit if you're interested. And we could end here, but then my 10-year-old daughter, 2 weeks ago, we went for shopping, and she told me, "Oh, Daddy, by the way, I know you're gonna have your presentation, and did you know that?" So her mobile phone restrictions are for 1 hour per day. Okay, and I thought, like with all the patches that they released, it's just like, is she gonna obey? Or is she going to be forced to do it? Turns out, not really. So what's happening is that when you're going to be using your mobile device, this is slightly trickier demo, so I'm going to make sure that it actually works first, because before I'm going to try to show you this. Hold on. Oh, it's not gonna work. Let's try the other phone. Yeah. So, and this is like the most trivial workaround that you could imagine. So when you're gonna open a Google app, you still have time to browse whatever you're allowed to browse, and you're gonna hit the limit of this 1 hour, your phone's going to tell you, okay, time ran out. But, and it's going to kill all the applications on the device. All the applications but one, and this one application is Google App. I'm going to try to show you that in a moment if there's going to be some questions. But the idea is just to like bring up the app launcher and just click on the Google app again, and it's going to show you the content that you are looking at. It could be Instagram, it could be YouTube, just anything. So as soon as you navigate away from the page on which you were, it's going to just complain. It's not going to allow you to keep browsing. But if you're just going to stick to YouTube or Instagram and doom scroll for hours, you're happy to do it, because this Google app is special, so you can't really, like operating system doesn't kill it. And yeah, we had a chat about it with my daughter, and hopefully she's gonna be reasonable about it. So when my son, when he told us about this, he was like skeptical, like a bit scared, and he asked us, aren't you like upset about it? And then I gave him this example of, imagine that I wouldn't allow you to go and swim, and a year later you come back with like a gold medal in swimming. Why would I get upset about that, right? So unfortunately, he didn't get the award for his bugs, but I tried to give him, and I think I will need to come up with another one or two. And parenting, it's becomes really tricky. There's one TV series that I really like called Black Mirror. It's a bit dark. Anybody seen it? Okay. there's one particular episode called Archangel about a mom who agrees on some like high-tech implant in her daughter's head because she got lost when she was really small, and it shows the consequences of like peeking too much into what your kids are doing. So I'm very well aware of the fact that this is very controversial topic, and I feel uneasy about that. At the same time, it's exciting, and I'm trying to keep my children sane and not addicted to phones. So yeah, if you're planning on having children, just make sure that you have a plan for when you're gonna give them mobile phones. For developers among us, it does make a difference whether you're gonna be using this API or that API, and it can have even in something as simple as mobile phones, you can actually impact somebody's life. Or minors with choices that you're gonna make, and this is pretty significant, especially when the vendor just doesn't tell you about that. Modern applications, they became so complex. Like, in order to understand what's going on inside, I had to spend a good couple of days, learn new tooling, and I've been in security research in security business for 10 years, and I have a master's in computer science, and I've been developer for 10 years. And if you're just like, I don't know, a doctor and you have kids, or a baker or so, how could you expect that somebody's going to be peeking into those details to the level that I was? So companies, they don't really help us in being like reasonable citizens and good parents, and they seem to be abusing the trust that we put in them. Well, to the extent that I wouldn't be able to grasp. But I just didn't believe when I saw that. My jaw dropped. And that's it. That's my son. He's very peculiar person. He's doing marshmallows at home because he was in the mood for it. These are like matches and toothpicks. He doesn't want to become a pen tester. With my wife, we are a bit sorry about that, but he's into biology rather than pen testing. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got for now. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them.
I'm not sure I understood correctly, but you said that the Android API to open up a web view by default was safe, but no?
Okay. No, the web view is this like low-level API that just allows you to do anything, and it bypasses the controls that I showed you. The problem is with the other frameworks that you use when you write applications or Android. So when you use Xamarin or Dark Flutter or React Native, they are using this low-level way of showing web content because they think it's the right thing to do, but that's not the case. It's like it's actually what's causing those kinds of problems. They shouldn't be doing that, but the blame is kind of half on the developers of those frameworks and half on Google, because Google is not really actively advertising that this is just something that you should be really careful with. Yes, please.
Is there a different API that's supposed to using Android for web?
So there are two. There's a WebView, and there's there are two other ways of working with web content. One is just to create this, like telling the operating system to open something in a browser, which is these are called intents on Android, and you just create a new intent. It's just an instance of an intent class, and you put there your link, and you tell the browser, "Oh, you open the browser for me." And there's a new API that they introduced in maybe Android 12, where it's called Chrome tabs, and it allows you slightly more control over the UI part, because if you open a browser, your UI is just lost, okay? You navigated away from the app. You might not want to do that. So there's this Chrome tabs, which is still full-fledged browser, but there's some control that you have over how it's displayed. You can change the color of like a title bar of a web page. You can change the size of it slightly, so then it looks like it's inside your application. Yeah. Funny enough, iOS doesn't have this issue, so the security controls implemented in screen time, so the Apple alternative to Google Family Link, they work better. So even if you try to open this kind of iOS web view, it's going to go through all the blocking mechanisms, so you're not going to be able to open web pages or walk around those restrictions that I showed today.
If I understand correctly, Chrome tab basically inherits the restrictions on the main browser on the phone,
Yeah.
but within the application, so it still looks nice for it.
Yeah, yeah. So the web view is like a raw engine behind the browser, and Chrome is Chrome. This is what has the restrictions.
Okay, and Skype is still vulnerable to this. You said MSRC, the Microsoft Security basically said it was not applicable. They didn't want to do anything with it.
But now I remember I told you that they didn't do something about it, but just today, yeah, that's why you need to check demos. So please remember that this phone has fully updated Android operating system, but none of the applications. They're like old ones. So when you're going to go to Skype, and you're going to go to settings. Oh, sorry. What's going on? Thank you. You can see this web links previews.
Does it still open in a web view, Insco web view?
No, it doesn't. I literally found that hour and 20 minutes ago.
Okay, so in up-to-date Skype, it looks like they fixed it, but obviously the child can block the updates.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I've really found it just today, so I don't know if it's React Native change or the library change or something that came as an update for the applications, or is it Skype? But it seems like they changed this for some reason, although they didn't even respond to my bug bounty submission. And bonus for you, my thanks for joining. This is related to yesterday's evening fun talk about airplanes that fall from the sky and problems with mental models. Did you read this fine print on your hotel cards?
If you're staying in this hotel, yeah.
I think I discovered that accidentally.
Yeah, and I actually recorded. This is the first hotel that it happened. That it happened in for me. So yeah, when you have this locked door, close it, but it doesn't close. How insane is that, right? So you actually have to tap, and then it looks. Yeah, yeah, that's what one of colleagues told us. But yeah, this is really insane. Yeah, yeah. So weird stuff. Okay, lovely. Thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoyed my talk.